Hey guys, happy Monday. It's Miss Kurtam, and as promised, I am creating a YouTube video for you, or for those of you who weren't able to make our class earlier today. So I'm going to just explain what we talked about, and then I will explain the assignment for you. And if you have any questions, you can email me or Google Voice me. Okay? All right, so what we talked about this week was last week we talked about Nikola Tesla, right? We read this short story about him being the greatest inventor of all, and it was a very short biography. And we discussed that together. This week, or last week, I'm sorry, I also asked you to read and annotate the invention of everything else. Okay. Now, as we talked about before, this is kind of a person's fictional take on what they felt Nikola Tesla was feeling and thinking and seeing. If you look at the background, it says, in her novel, Samantha Hunt imagines the last days in the life of Nikola Tesla from the perspective of the famous inventor. This excerpt refers to Guglielmo Marconi, an inventor who sent the first wireless signal across an ocean and received a Nobel Prize for his work in 9/11. However, he did so by using many key inventions that were initially developed by Nikola Tesla. Now, we talked about this in our virtual classes today, and we talked about how Marconi looked up to Tesla and attended some of his lectures and kind of followed his documentation and followed what he did, but he used several of Tesla's patents, okay? And we kind of went over about what a patent was. So if you look at my screen over here on the right, this is what a patent looks like. And basically a patent, here's the definition for you. A patent is a form of intellectual property that gives owner the legal right to exclude others from making, using, selling, and importing an invention for a limited period of years in exchange for publishing and enabling public disclosure of the invention. So basically it's that such and such person invented it, and it's basically keeping that person safe from others copying it for a certain amount of years, okay? So Tesla had numerous types of patents. And I am going to post these videos. We watched these 1, 2, 3, very short video. This is kind of a fictionalized video about when Tesla first met Marconi. And you need to really have the sound clear because it's not originally English and it's dubbed in English. So it's a little bit, you have to kind of strain to kind of understand what they're saying. But it's not very long. It's a little bit more than a minute. And it just kind of gives you an idea about the introduction of the two people. Now, Marconi was not American. He did not live in America. However, he did visit before he returned back to Europe. Okay? We watched this video here about who invented basically the idea of transmitting communication through airwaves. Now, we talked about how it was kind of originally Tesla's idea, and Tesla in 1981 began doing it. I'm going to post this video for you also. It's a 2-minute video, and it's really good for you to watch, okay? And then it talked about how Marconi was the first person, let me scoot back. So in 1891, Tesla was the first inventor to kind of have this idea and start implementing the idea, okay? But Marconi had a huge accident. In 1895, his complete warehouse and his inventions and everything that he had worked on, there was a huge fire and he lost everything, okay? In 1901, Marconi was the first person to send a message across the ocean, across the English Channel. And all he did was send one letter, the Morse code letter S, but he was the one who received the credit for making this happen and not Tesla. We talked about how this was really hard for Tesla because after this, Marconi gained more notoriety and gained more fame, whereas Tesla had patents proving that he was the one to initiate this idea. So he felt like he was cheated. And this was kind of a double blow because we also talked about how Tesla came to the United States to work for Thomas Edison. And Thomas Edison was an inventor, but he was also a shrewd businessman who, remember, had a very bad falling out with Tesla because Tesla worked for him, and he told Tesla, if you can correct my inventions, if you can improve them, if you can make them better, then I will pay you $50,000. And we talked about how $50,000 is a lot of money, but back then, $50,000 would equal to about $1.3 million, right? And so we also talked about how if that were you, if you'd spent months working on something because somebody had promised you money at the end of the outcome and then just kind of scoffed and said, oh, never mind, I was just kidding with you, you would feel bitter and cheated, right? So as it said, Edison and Tesla were bitter enemies till the end, bitter rivals, right? But Edison was still an inventor and he was still a shrewd businessman. And so he kind of heard about what Marconi was doing, and he became one of Marconi's primary investors. So that we talked about today was probably adding salt to the wound, right? It made everything worse because Tesla had come to the United States to work for Edison. Edison cheated Tesla out of his money, and then now come to find out he felt that Marconi had stolen his ideal or used his patents without giving him due credit, and now Thomas Edison is funding him to do more. Okay, so it is a very short 2-minute video, and I will post this for you to watch. In 1904, they declared that Marconi was the inventor of the radio. And we talked about how Tesla spent the next 39 years trying to get that overturned and have his patents proved that he was the original inventor. So in 1943, the Supreme Court restored Tesla's patent. But two things, it took 39 years. 39 years of him spending his time trying to get this reversed, right? And so we talked about now, that Mrs. Kratom is 40 years old. So he spent my entire lifetime doing this. And you, as an 8th grade student, will grow up knowing that Marconi was the inventor of the radio and not necessarily that it was Tesla. So we talked about how even though Tesla got it reversed, it was still kind of, the damage was still done, and he really wasn't recognized as the one to do that. Another thing that we talked about was that Tesla died in 1943. And so he didn't really get to live and try to communicate the fact that the Supreme Court restored his patent, or his original patent, okay? The second video that we watched was very similar to the first, right? It kind of talked about the same thing, about who invented it, how Tesla had everything planned first, a fire destroyed his laboratory. But Tesla here said that Marconi's been known the father of wireless, but Tesla said here, Marconi is a good fella. Let him go on. He is using 17 of my patents. Okay. So in our discussions today, most people sided with Tesla. However, I did have some students side with Marconi and say, well, yes, Tesla did start it. Tesla did have the initial patent. However, he never saw it through. And it was Marconi who took it and actually completed it into what it is today. Okay. Needless to say, Marconi started up a company. And as we said before, Thomas Edison funded him. He also received the Nobel Prize in 1911, but admitted that he didn't really know how his invention worked. He did know, though, that it did start with the patents that he had been referring back to. Okay? So your assignment today, is you are going to write a one-page diary entry from the perspective of Nikola Tesla. So basically, you are going to pretend that you are Tesla, okay? Before I explain this a little bit more, we also talked about how most people forgot about Tesla, and that the only reason why people started remembering Tesla again was because Elon Musk named the electric car company Tesla, because he used the original patents from 1882 that Tesla had created. And so once Elon Musk started talking about Nikola Tesla, then people started going back and researching him and doing more information, finding more information about him, and realizing that a lot of the basis for other people's inventions started with him and his patents. Okay. So as we said, the story that you were reading previously, right, was kind of from Tesla's perspective, and the authors kind of tried to write what she thought he would feel and what he would think and what he would say. And so I'm asking you to do the same thing. You are going to write a one-page diary entry from the perspective of Nikola Tesla. So basically, you have to pretend that you are Tesla. And you have to write about something that happened. You can write about coming to America. You can write about working for Edison. That you were working for Edison and that he cheated you with the money. You can write about how Marconi used 17 of your patents, yet you did not receive the recognition, or that Marconi received the Nobel Prize instead. It has to be a one-page essay. So I am going to post this on Google Classroom for you. Under classwork, you are going to fill out your first name, your last name, your mod, and then down here is where you are going to write me your one-page diary entry. Now, also, I had a short video that's about a minute, okay? And yeah, a minute and 30 seconds. And it just shows you quickly about all the different aspects that you need to write a diary. Now, we also talked about how back then a lot of people would journal. It didn't matter, man, woman, older, younger. They would just journal, right? Because that was a way to get their thoughts out and to share their ideas, because they didn't have the means of communication that we do now. So I would like for you to start it with Dear Diary or Dear Journal. We also talked about that you needed to show the date, and that the date that you're going to use is not May 18th, 2020. You have to go back and kind of figure out what year you think Tesla would be doing this. Would it be 1901? So would it be May 18th, 1901? Would it be May 18th, 1940? May 18th, 1899? Okay, you need to go back and figure out what time you think it would be. Also, I want you to tell me, how do you feel? You are able to use I on this. I do want it to sound like a diary entry. This is a sample diary paragraph, but I need a one-page entry from you. And so again, I am going to post this video for you to refer back to. Okay, I will hold virtual office hours later this week for you, but also know you can always send me an email. And if you have my Google Voice number, you can text me and I will get back to you as quickly as possible. I hope you all are doing well. If you have any questions, reach out to me and